I've worked software development for 9 years straight, climbing up to senior engineer after grinding 2 part-time jobs through college to avoid student debt. 3 years ago, I married Lila, who only held sporadic part-time retail shifts that barely covered her weekly coffee runs and nail appointments. From our wedding day forward, every single household expense fell solely on my bank account. I paid the full suburban townhome rent of $2,100 each month, purchased every piece of furniture, including the king-size gray fabric bed we slept in, bought her luxury silk nightgown for Valentine's Day that cost $480. She'd rejected a cheaper $300 option I originally picked out, complaining it looked cheap and wouldn't impress her friends. I covered all her monthly salon visits, premium gym membership, full auto insurance and gas for her sedan, plus every weekend dinner and short vacation we booked together. Whenever I hesitated to splurge on expensive new accessories for her, she'd guilt-trip me nonstop, saying I cared more about my code projects than making her feel loved. Over time, I also noticed unexplained repeated small cash withdrawals from our joint debit card, hundreds of dollars vanishing every week that she claimed she'd spent on groceries or gas, but our fridge was always half empty and her tank rarely hit low mileage. I never confronted her right away, a developer. I'm trained to collect complete logs before drawing conclusions, so I took quiet action to gather hard proof without tipping her off. I ordered a tiny hidden security cam disguised as a wall charging adapter online for under $80, mounted it facing our living room to record all comings and goings while I was at the office. The first 2 weeks of footage showed nothing out of the ordinary, to be why week 3, consistent patterns emerged. Every Wednesday afternoon around 2:17 p.m., a man named Chase would walk through our front door carrying 2 fancy coffee drinks from a popular downtown cafe. Lila would rush out of our bedroom wearing that same expensive silk nightgown to greet him. They'd set the untouched lattes on the coffee table and head straight into our master bedroom, closing the door behind them for multiple hours straight. This exact sequence repeated 5 separate Wednesdays in a row over the next month. I archived every video clip, labeled each file with the exact date and timestamp, then created an organized spreadsheet logging every visit, duration, and small financial irregularity I spotted on our bank statements tied to her secret outings with him. I kept this archive locked on an encrypted work cloud drive, still clinging to a faint hope that we could fix our marriage if she admitted the truth and stopped draining my income to fund another man's leisure. Small, subtle signs piled up for months leading to the day everything broke. She began locking her phone with facial recognition overnight, stopped sharing her screen with me entirely. Every other week, she claimed her retail store scheduled weekend team retreats that required overnight hotel stays, which I later confirmed never existed by calling her manager during a work lunch break. She'd frequently stare at her phone and smile softly in a way she never directed toward me, even on our anniversary dinners I'd fully paid for. That Wednesday afternoon, I was buried under 3 overlapping coding projects and technical documentation at my desk when an anonymous photo landed in my text inbox, no sender ID attached. The shot was blurry, taken through our living room window curtains, clearly capturing Lila and Chase tangled together on my bed. I stared at the image for 10 full seconds, my expression completely flat. My coworker Tyler glanced over from the adjacent desk and asked why I looked so drained all of a sudden, like I just received a nightmare client revision request. I told him it was a personal family issue, grabbed my jacket, and told our team lead I needed to head home early due to sudden discomfort. The 18-minute drive back to our townhome passed in total silence with no music playing. I mentally walked through every month of one-sided spending and hidden surveillance footage, compiling a clear timeline of their secret weekly trysts and the thousands of my dollars they'd wasted together, without a single thought for my livelihood. I parked in the underground garage, skipped the elevator to avoid making noise with the chime alert, and climbed 23 flights of stairs on foot to reach our unit, taking 10 minutes to reach the front door without huffing heavily. I pulled out my physical key instead of using the fingerprint lock that emits a loud beep, twisted the knob slowly, and pushed the door open a tiny crack. 2 unopened premium coffee cups sat untouched on the living room coffee table, exactly matching every recording I had saved over the prior weeks. Our master bedroom door hung partially ajar. I stood in the entryway for a single deep breath, only winded from climbing stairs, not nervous or angry, and pushed the bedroom door fully open to witness the scene captured in the anonymous photo firsthand. Lila snapped her head toward the doorway instantly, her face cycling through shock, panic, and pale terror in half a second flat. Chase jolted upright beside her, eyes blown wide, jaw hanging loose with clear guilt written all over his features that I didn't yell, throw furniture, or charge toward them. I stepped backward into the living room, pulled my smartphone out of my pocket, and dialed the local non-emergency police dispatch line without raising my voice an inch. Chapter 2 police arrive, their contradictory lies exposed on the spot. I held the phone to my ear with steady, even tone like reading standard program comments out loud to a teammate. Dispatcher, my name is Silas Reed. Address Unit 2305, Greenfield Townhomes. I just returned home early from work and found an unknown male inside my master bedroom with my wife. She appeared extremely terrified when I opened the door. I suspect she may be held against her will. The dispatcher paused for 3 full beats to process my statement before requesting more details. I repeated the objective visual evidence I just witnessed without adding emotional accusations. When I unlocked the front door and opened the bedroom entrance, both parties froze. My wife's body language read as obvious distress and fear toward the unfamiliar man present in our shared home. I have no intention of physical confrontation. Please send patrol officers to document the scene immediately. I hung up the call and stood quietly by the sofa, watching Lila scramble to wrap the bed comforter tight around her body and rush out of the bedroom toward me. Her voice shook violently, panic overriding every fake gentle tone she normally used to manipulate me. What on earth did you just do? Why would you call the cops over something we can talk through privately? I remained completely calm, gesturing toward the empty coffee cups on the tabletop. No private discussion needed now. Law enforcement will handle this. You can explain everything to them directly. Chase stumbled out of the bedroom seconds later, fumbling with his denim jeans, his zipper left undone from rushing to dress himself. He froze mid-step once he spotted me sitting on the sofa, hands shaking so bad he struggled to fasten the fly properly. I nodded toward his waistline flatly. Fix your zipper first before you try to say anything. His face flushed bright green with embarrassment as he tugged the zipper closed in a frantic rush, then stepped forward to make desperate bargaining attempts, lowering his voice to a hurried whisper meant only for my ears. Listen, man, this is all just a huge misunderstanding between us. I can write you a check for a lump sum cash payout to settle this whole incident without police involvement. $100,000, even $100,000 if that's why you need to drop everything. I tilted my head slightly without any hostile reaction. $100,000 won't cover the civil restitution I'll be filing for every dollar I spent funding your secret weekly meetups here for months. Also, patrols are 6 minutes away from this complex. They've already dispatched 2 units for dispatch confirmation. His complexion drained to ashen gray instantly, glancing repeatedly at the front door calculating if he could sprint down 23 flights of stairs and escape before officers arrived. Lila collapsed onto the far end of the sofa wrapped in the comforter, eyes watering with manufactured tears meant to tug at my sympathy, yet her body language radiated pure fear rather than remorse. You're being irrational and cruel right now. We can work out a compromise if you just cancel that police call immediately. I picked up one of the untouched lattes from the table, twisted the plastic lid off, and took a slow sip of the still warm drink. This vanilla oat latte tastes decent. You two didn't even bother drinking them before rushing into the bedroom every single Wednesday. Total waste of money out of my shared account. Neither of them responded to my quiet remark. Heavy tense silence filling the entire townhome for nearly 15 seconds until the building's front entry doorbell chimed sharply. Chase's whole frame jolted like an electric shock hit his body, Lila flinching and pulling the comforter higher up over her chin. I set the coffee mug down neatly, smoothed my button-down shirt sleeves, and rubbed my eye sockets lightly to create a soft, distraught, grief-stricken expression for the responding officers. No fake crying, just subtle redness along my nose and slightly furrowed brows to sell the traumatized husband narrative I'd laid out on the phone minutes prior. I unlocked the front door fully to greet the 2 patrol officers standing on the landing outside our unit. The senior middle-aged lead officer carried a notebook. His younger rookie partner held a running body camera recording at chest height. Silas Reed, correct? I nodded, allowing my tone to carry faint restrained tremors as I gestured inward toward the living room where Chase stood disheveled and Lila huddled wrapped in fabric on the sofa. Thank you for rushing over so quickly. I didn't know how to process what I walked in on just a few minutes ago. The lead officer scanned the chaotic scene rapidly. Messy-haired Chase with misaligned shirt buttons, Lila bundled in bed linens, half-consumed coffee mug resting on the center table, then turned toward the man standing rigid in the middle of the room to request official identification. Chase's fingers trembled as he pulled his leather wallet out of his back pocket and handed over his state driver's license printed with the full name Chase Hale, 36 years old. Before the officer could start questioning him, Chase blurted out a desperate defensive denial in a raised, panicked tone. This isn't what it looks like at all. We're fully consenting to each other. This was a mutual planned arrangement all along. Every pair of eyes locked onto Lila the second those words left his mouth, waiting for her confirmation or rebuttal. Her lips parted and clamped shut repeatedly, trapped inside the impossible binary trap I'd unintentionally created by calling police under a potential coercion claim. If she admitted a voluntary months-long affair, she'd be labeled an unfaithful spouse with hundreds of my financial records proving she'd wasted my income on their secret dates for divorce court. If she backed up my original police statement and claimed Chase forced himself on her, he would face serious criminal sexual misconduct charges carrying multi-year prison sentencing. After 3 long, agonizing seconds of silence, she mumbled a barely audible line loud enough for the body camera audio to capture clearly. "I don't know this man at all." Chase's face crumpled in slow-motion shock, disbelief melting into unbridled terror as he spun to stare straight at her, shouting in a cracked, unhinged voice that echoed through the unit walls. "How can you lie like this? We've been seeing each other every single Wednesday for 3 months straight." His wild gesturing knocked the full coffee tray off the table, both remaining lattes spilling dark liquid across the wooden floorboards in a sticky puddle. I stood off to the side observing without a single comment, mentally logging this full on-camera contradiction as critical supplementary evidence for my upcoming divorce filings. The lead officer pulled handcuffs from his duty belt and instructed Chase to place his hands behind his back to be transported to the local precinct for formal witness statements and cross-examination. Chapter 3 Police Station Recordings. Full financial evidence archive prepared. We split into 2 separate police vehicles to travel down to the downtown precinct. Lila rode alongside the senior lead officer in their squad car, Chase placed in the back of the rookie officer's cruiser, while I followed behind driving my own sedan. Mid-transit, my coworker Tyler sent a flood of panicked text messages asking if I'd made it home okay after leaving work early. I sent a brief condensed summary of the incident, and he immediately dialed my cell phone frantically, offering to drive over with a group of our work friends for support. I told him I was en route to give official witness statements at the station and would catch up once paperwork wrapped up, cutting the call short to focus on driving safely. Once we arrived at the police station facility, officers separated us into 3 individual interview rooms to take written recorded statements with body cameras rolling nonstop for every conversation. The lead detective assigned to my case sat across the plastic table from me, pen hovering over a lined legal notepad to document every detail I provided. I recounted the complete timeline without exaggeration or emotional outbursts. 3 years of sole household financial coverage, hidden weekly surveillance footage capturing their recurring Wednesday trysts, bank statements tracking repeated unexplained cash, withdrawals Lila spent on Chase's coffee and casual outings, the anonymous photo alert that prompted me to leave work early, and the exact visual scene I walked in on that afternoon. The detective paused writing briefly to study my facial expression, picking up on the cold, methodical neutrality with which I recounted every devastating detail of my marriage's collapse. "You never attempted physical altercations with either party upon discovering this?" I shook my head plainly, referencing my software engineering career as context for my logical, unemotional approach to crisis handling. My job requires sorting through raw data and evidence before reaching any conclusion. I prefer documented objective facts over impulsive outbursts that only complicate legal proceedings later. I handed over a secure USB drive I'd preloaded before leaving the townhome, containing every surveillance video clip, bank transaction CSV logs, screenshot archives of Lila's secret texting history with Chase, and the anonymous photo sent to my phone that day. The detective plugged the drive into his workstation to preview the thousands of files stored within, visibly stunned by the thorough chronological evidence I compiled over months of quiet observation. Once my full-typed witness statement was printed out, I signed and initialed every page before exiting the interview room to wait on the hard plastic lobby bench for the other 2 parties to finish their recorded testimonies. Roughly 15 minutes passed before Chase was escorted out of his interrogation chamber by uniformed officers, his skin a sickly gray shade with dark heavy bags under his eyes from hours of high-stakes questioning. He spotted me sitting alone on the bench and locked eyes with me, a tangled mixture of rage, fear, and desperate pleading visible across his features. Yet he didn't dare step within arm's reach of the uniformed officers standing beside him to attempt any private negotiation speech. Another 10 minutes later, Lila emerged from her interview room, her fake tearful act fully discarded now that police cameras weren't rolling on her every word, marching straight toward me to demand I retract all my original statements to law enforcement and drop all potential legal claims against them both. I pulled out my phone and pulled up a preliminary breakdown spreadsheet calculating every dollar I'd single-handedly poured into supporting her and Chase's secret leisure activities over the prior 3 months alone, a total sum exceeding $14,000 USD in wasteful discretionary spending funded exclusively from my salary. All of these line items will be submitted as formal financial restitution evidence to the family court judge once divorce paperwork is filed next week. I hold every bank receipt, surveillance recording, and text exchange as legally admissible proof of the deliberate exploitation of my income while you maintained a secret extramarital affair. Lila's aggressive tirade died mid-sentence as she scanned the itemized dollar amounts scrolling across my screen, realizing every reckless purchase they'd made together was fully traceable and documented for a judge to review in full detail. I declined to engage in any further back-and-forth argument with her. standing up from the lobby bench and heading for the station's main exit door to drive back to our shared townhome and begin cataloging all physical assets I'd purchased outright during our marriage for formal asset division filings. Chapter 4: Full asset separation and their self-inflicted total collapse. The next business morning, I retained a licensed family law attorney specializing in marital asset disputes, delivered the full USB evidence archive and every physical receipt folder to their downtown legal office, initiating uncontested divorce proceedings, citing proven long-term adultery and unilateral financial exploitation by Lila. Within 10 days, the court issued temporary restraining orders barring both Lila and Chase from entering our townhome property or contacting me via phone, text, or social media platforms of any kind. I immediately closed all joint checking and credit accounts we'd shared, freezing every remaining balance and submitting formal civil restitution claims to recover the $14,000 USD LD drained to fund her affair with Chase, alongside reimbursement for all furniture, home goods, and her luxury apparel I'd fully paid for over 3 years of marriage. Their downward spiral unfolded entirely from their own coordinated lies and reckless financial choices with zero targeted sabotage or smear campaigns initiated on my part. 1. Chase faced formal misdemeanor false statement charges filed by the local police department after his contradictory on-camera claims conflicted with Lila's recorded interview testimony and hours of surveillance footage proving their pre-planned recurring weekly trysts at my private residence. His corporate marketing employer reviewed the full body camera footage circulated through local municipal legal records, immediately terminating his full-time position due to severe reputational damage to the company brand from the public domestic scandal. Every credit card Chase held maxed out rapidly once his steady salary vanished, and multiple loan companies issued formal default notices within weeks as he lacked income to cover minimum monthly payments. He attempted to rent a new apartment, yet every property manager ran background checks uncovering the police misdemeanor file, rejecting all lease applications outright for months on end, forcing him to crash on a distant acquaintance's couch with no permanent housing available. 2. Lila lost every part-time retail position she'd cycled through over the years once the domestic police report circulated through local small business social groups. Store owners refused to retain staff tied to a high-profile adultery and false coercion scandal that would alienate regular paying customers. Her salon memberships, premium gym access, and auto insurance policies all lapsed once I closed our shared payment accounts and cut off all monetary support entirely. She was forced to sell the $480 silk nightgown, designer handbags, and jewelry I'd gifted her at steep second-hand loss prices just to afford cheap weekly grocery runs, moving into a cramped shared basement rental unit with 2 random roommates she found via classified online listings. Her parents reached out multiple times to beg me to soften the restitution court demands, repeatedly leaning on blood family emotional manipulation tactics to pressure me into forgiving their daughter's multi-year exploitation of my income. I forwarded all financial evidence to them via email once, after which they ceased all outreach once they realized every wasteful expenditure was irrefutably documented on official bank records. 3. Their entire mutual circle of friends and casual social contacts cut off all communication permanently once police body camera clips and surveillance footage circulated across regional social media pages. No one wanted to associate with a pair who'd spent months secretly draining a husband's salary while plotting to lie to law enforcement to avoid accountability. Every dinner party, weekend gathering, and holiday invitation they'd previously received stopped arriving entirely, leaving them completely socially isolated with no peer support network left to rely on for financial or emotional comfort. Neither Lila nor Chase ever faced targeted harassment or reputational attacks orchestrated by me. Every negative consequence they endured stemmed purely from their own voluntary decision to conduct a months-long secret affair inside my home while living off my unilaterally earned income, then delivering contradictory false witness statements to police officers attempting to shift blame onto each other to escape legal penalties. I only exercised my full legal right to reclaim all assets and monetary losses I'd sustained over 3 years of one-sided marital sacrifice, utilizing objective archived evidence to present an airtight case before the family court judge with no hostile embellishments or fabricated accusations added to my official filings. Chapter 5: My Greed-Free Support Circle and Long-Term Healing Process. Throughout the divorce litigation and police statement proceedings, I maintained a tight, unselfish support network that stood as a stark, warm contrast against Lila and Chase's endless pattern of financial extraction and manipulative emotional blackmail. 1. Tyler, my senior software coworker and closest long-term friend. He texted daily to check my mental state after the police station incident, offered to deliver home-cooked meals to my empty townhome every evening for weeks, and coordinated a group after-work game night with our engineering team to pull my focus away from the grueling divorce paperwork stress. He never once requested personal loans or favors from me, only provided unconditional emotional support without hidden monetary motives attached to our friendship. MY Family Law Attorney MS. Reed handled every stage of the asset restitution and divorce filings with calm impartiality, walking me through every legal statute governing unilateral spousal financial exploitation without rushing me into hasty settlement decisions, offering complimentary follow-up consultation calls to process the emotional weight of 3 years of one-sided marital sacrifice at no extra hourly charge. Threed, MY, retired college coding mentor Mr. Hale invited me to his private backyard woodworking workshop every weekend to build custom wooden shelving units as a stress relief hobby, never bringing up my financial disputes or pushing me to reconcile with Lila, instead focusing on quiet creative labor to reset my mental well-being away from legal document stacks and court deadlines. 4. Long-term loyal tech clients I'd supported for multiple years sent dozens of heartfelt supportive emails once word of my marital situation spread within our industry network, offering extended high-budget development contracts to boost my personal disposable income once the divorce settlement finalized. With zero expectation, I'd offered discounted service rates in exchange for their business loyalty. I attended bi-weekly licensed trauma counseling sessions to unpack 3 full years of quiet emotional neglect and constant guilt-tripping Lila had subjected me to every time I hesitated to cover her endless frivolous expenses. Over months of consistent therapy, I slowly let go of the childish, lingering hope I'd once held for equal, reciprocal love within our marriage, fully accepting that Lila had only viewed my steady high salary as an infinite disposable resource to fund her secret romantic outings with Chase rather than valuing my character and hard work as a partner. 6 months following the initial police call, the family court judge issued a binding final divorce, fully ruling in my favor on all asset restitution claims, ordering Lila to pay back the full $14,000 USD I'd spent covering her affair-related leisure costs plus all associated attorney and court filing fees incurred during litigation. All furniture, electronics, and vehicles I purchased outright prior to and during our marriage were legally awarded solely back to me, with zero shared marital property split granted to Lila per the mountain of dated bank receipts and surveillance evidence I'd submitted as court exhibits. Once the full restitution payment cleared my bank account, I donated a large portion of the recovered funds to local domestic abuse and financial exploitation victim nonprofits, funding free legal consultation clinics for people trapped in one-sided romantic partnerships where they're financially drained by unfaithful, manipulative spouses for years on end. I sold the gray king-size bed and all matching home goods tied to the toxic 3-year marriage, redecorated the townhome with brand new minimalist furniture purchased entirely with my post-divorce income, and reallocated my monthly budget exclusively toward personal savings, hobby supplies, and charitable donations rather than funding another person's reckless spending habits. I never held lingering, vengeful resentment toward Lila or Chase as time passed. Every bankruptcy, housing struggle, and social ostracism they faced was a natural self-created outcome of their own long-running dishonest scheme to live off my hard-earned salary while hiding their secret affair and lying to neutral law enforcement officials. I never engineered any harm toward them at any stage of the ordeal, only utilized legally admissible objective evidence to recover what rightfully belonged to me and cut off all voluntary financial support once my irreversible trust boundary was completely shattered. Chapter 6, Closing Life Lesson Reflection. This entire multi-month ordeal hammered an unshakable permanent lesson into my worldview about romantic partnerships and financial boundaries. Any partner who consistently lives solely off your income without contributing equal shared household costs, while hiding secret romantic connections that drain your finances further, will never reciprocate genuine care no matter how many years of sacrifice you pour into the relationship. You do not need to orchestrate cruel retaliation or public smear campaigns to hold manipulative, greedy, unfaithful spouses accountable. Simply document every transaction, interaction, and hidden violation with clear, time-stamped objective evidence. Then present your complete archive to neutral third parties like police and family court judges when your bottom-line boundary is crossed irreparably. Their own coordinated lies and reckless, short-sighted choices will unravel their entire comfortable lifestyle completely without any pre-planned interference from your side. I've since revised all personal financial planning frameworks to enforce strict separate bank accounts and split household expense agreements before entering any serious long-term romantic relationship, prioritizing mutual financial transparency and equal give and take over one-sided monetary sacrifice for another person's endless leisure demands. My daily life now exists fully free of constant guilt-tripping, unplanned cash withdrawals, and secret affair surveillance stress, surrounded by genuine loyal friends and industry contacts who value my professional skill and personality rather than calculating how much of my salary they can convince me to hand over for their own selfish benefit.